get right to Dan Orlovsky and what should be a great Thanksgiving day of NFL football.
Yeah, it's a stacked lineup of games in the National Football League. Dan joins us on the Alexander Shedeur Trial Attorneys Hotline. Happy early Thanksgiving, Dan. How are you, buddy?
I'm doing great. Happy early Thanksgiving as well, dudes.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun day tomorrow. And one reason it's going to be a fun day is because of the way all of a sudden Dallas is playing. And now they've got Kansas City in a game, Dan, that is just massive for both playoff the playoff implications for both teams. I mean, both teams really in desperate need of this win.
Yeah, in many ways, it is a playoff game. Does it numerically or mathematically put out either team if they lose? No. But it makes it feel relatively impossible that there would be zero margin for error. And a month ago, you would have never thought this game would have been competitive. Yet there's, and justifiably so, there's people who think Dallas can win. You know, Dallas's offense has been great all year, but it is a different version with Pickens right now. Pickens, I think, has become one of the best receivers and certainly in the conversation for best receiver in the NFL. You can't cover him one-on-one. And that's said with all due respect to many good corners. Dak's playing at a really high level, and CeeDee's not even playing well. I think defensively, the addition of Quinnen Williams and Overshown getting healthy have been huge. Quinnen just creating penetration, having a blocking one-on-ones hard right now. Overshown tackled Saquon twice in space last week to end a football game. You don't see that much. And so, yeah, I think the defense can hang. You know, and Kansas City's going to be playing without their best guard, Trey Smith. Defense a lot better last week. Chris Jones a lot better last week than he has been this season. I don't really lean one way or the other in this game. I do think it's going to be a great game.
You know, Jerry Jones, since winning a Super Bowl, has kind of become a pinata, and we all take shots that he's general manager,
Sure.
Jerry, and does bad jobs. But should we start giving him a little credit? I mean, to go out and get Pickens, to get Kenny Clark, to get Quinnen Williams. I mean, is the defense better now without Micah Parsons with the pieces they've put in there?
Yeah, I mean, it performed better last week. Let me say that. You know, I don't know if I'm ready to say, because anybody that watched the Packers play last week realized Micah was a dang menace. And also, let's be transparent and honest about Dallas. Up until last year, Dallas had won 12 games 3 years in a row. You don't do that without good players. So Jerry, for years now, has built a good football team. Now, did they get too expensive in the last 12 months? For sure. Is that part of the Micah situation? For sure. But this was a defense that had moments last year. It just fell apart and health-wise was decimated offensively. And so, you know, Mike is still playing at an incredibly high level. They were really good for 3 quarters last week in Dallas defensively. But, you know, I think the biggest question for Dallas is it's still a long shot for them to get in. Can they play meaningful games for the next 6 weeks? You know, can they make it interesting? And then how in God's green earth can they afford George Pickens after this season? That's probably the two most interesting questions.
It's very interesting before we even get to the weekend in the NFC North, because Chicago plays Philly on Friday, but then we get Green Bay and Detroit coming up. Who needs this game more? Green Bay or Detroit? I know the answer is both, but only one can win it. Who needs this game the most?
I'm going to say Green Bay. And my reasoning is I think I would be surprised if the NFC representative isn't one of the 3 teams of Philadelphia, LA, or Seattle. Okay. And then I think there's probably a group of 2 teams that I would say have the shot if they get hot, and Green Bay is in that group. I don't believe Detroit can get there with the way their offensive line's playing. I do think that Green Bay's offensive line has played better the past 2 weeks. I'll say Green Bay because can they get the 1 seed? Is that still part of the conversation? If they can't get the 1 seed, can they get the 2 seed to still have some form of home field advantage? The defense is playing at an incredibly high level. I think it's one of the best units in football. And so while I love Detroit, the interior of their offensive line is just not played well enough for me in the pass protection situation. And so certainly playoffs are on the line for them a little bit more if they lose it. But I'll say Green Bay for the long haul.
Dan Orlovsky on the Alexander Shedeur Trial Attorneys Hotline. As a guy that has been in a locker room and knows how an NFL locker room works, what my highest paid player, my star quarterback, says Thursday night, I know we're out of the playoffs. I mean, there's really not a reasonable path to Cincinnati making the playoffs, but I'm going to come back and play. What does that do for him among his teammates?
Yeah, it brings a total, like a high level of respect if it wasn't there already. It brings I'm going to go play if I'm banged up too. Like if the star quarterback who has every reason to not play is playing, then I'm going to go play too, especially if the way I play impacts his ability to play. So if I'm an offensive lineman, it brings you energy game day. It brings you, expectation game day. That defense is historically bad right now, so I think they need anything. But I do think it's a credit to Joe. I think anybody that has said like they got to save him from himself, there is no saving highly competitive athletes from themselves. That's a cool saying. That sounds great. But when he says, I've always dreamed about playing on Thanksgiving Day, and this is the opportunity. So, I do think it brings a little bit extra juice. Will it help them tackle? God bless.
You played in this league, and I know I asked way too many Rams questions, but they are the best team on the planet, not even close.
It's very objective.
27 consecutive touchdown passes without an interception in this league. I mean, how is that done? That's crazy, is it not?
Oh yeah, it's nuts. I mean, I was joking in a way, but I was on with Stephen A. and Stephen A. said, we're watching a quarterback that will go down as one of the greatest ever. And it was finally this moment for me where I was like, fudging finally, dude. It's taken me 4 years, and you guys have called me, like his boyfriend for just telling the truth about him. Yeah, and I think, it's funny because Matthew has I'll give him his flowers. He's had some of these benchmark moments in his career. I think he owns some historical marks when it comes to fastest to do certain things, and obviously a Super Bowl, and it's trending towards an MVP. And yeah, I think we're going to get to a point here where he's going to go down as one of the greatest ever. And I would have thought this was more than likely his last year. It's hard to see that now. The way he's throwing it, I think the way they're keeping him clean, the way that Devontae has changed their ability down in the red zone to get touchdowns and not field goals. I'm happy for him, man. And I think, he's got one of the great all-time clutch postseason runs ever. Now he's putting together a season that if it continues to go this way, we'll have one of the greatest ever runs, heater runs attached to it. So, I think there's legacy on the line for him big time.
Doesn't he go on the golf trip with you and John Parker? Didn't he do that golf trip?
Yeah, JP Dub, Matt Ryan. There's some good groups. There's some good groups.
I know. I've heard
They're good golfers. He's a good golfer too. He plays golf like he plays quarterback.
Yeah, I assume.
When he's on, you're like, what the fudge, dude? I can't do anything about it. And when he's off, like, all right, you stink.
Yeah, JP's told me some stories. I've heard some stories from that trip. They're fun.
Meat? Yeah, Meat's a good dude.
Meat. I never call him. Nobody around here calls him Meat that I'm aware of.
No.
Yeah, there you go. There's a little inside information.
Yeah, I remember the first time you told us Meat.
Hey, so why would your head coach leave to take Colorado State?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know. I texted him this morning. I said, hey, coach, just want to say thanks, man. Truly appreciate everything you did. I'll always be rooting for you, but I hate Colorado State. So I don't know. A lot of people have texted me and said, yeah, Pac-12 and the new Pac-12 Colorado State's going into. I don't know if this means that UConn getting into a conference is unlikely in the near future. I don't know, but there's also reality where I think he's more of a West Coast person. I'm sure Fort Collins, everyone says, is beautiful. Storrs, Connecticut ain't the prettiest place in the country. So, I don't know.
What did you see you liked out of Shedeur Sanders, Dan? It was a win over the Raiders, who were terrible, obviously. 11 of 20, I think it was, threw for a touchdown, a couple, 200 yards. What did you see that you liked, though, out of him in his first start?
Yeah, the lights weren't too bright was the best thing. I thought he moved well. Obviously, he has an escape out to his right, ball downfield. That's a great throw. One of the highlights of their season. I thought that he didn't hold on to the football. Again, that was a complaint of mine of his in college. But there wasn't this, oh my gosh, this guy just lit the Raiders up. The Raiders stink. Their tape is terrible. Different world this week against San Francisco. So I was happy for him. There's been a lot of noise around him. I think going with him as the starter is the right decision, but I'm not sitting here going, dude, we got a superstar here. So, it was a good beginning. He wasn't asked, nor did he do a ton. What was presented to him, I thought he handled well. And I think, this is a very different experience this weekend in San Francisco. We'll see what it looks like after that.
All right, he is Dan Orlovsky. See him all weekend talking NFL and college football with ESPN. Thank you very much for the time. Have a great Thanksgiving with the family, Dan.
Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
All right, buddy, you too. Take care. Dan Orlovsky with us on the Alexander Shinara Trial Attorneys Hotline.